Greetings and salutations. This time I shall be talking about the 2011 film Thor. Now, what can I really say about Thor? Aside from, if you understand your Norse mythology, the Marvel Universe version of Thor and his world is similar, but at the same time different. Does that make sense? Probably not. But there's things about the Marvel Thor that just irritate me. But still, I'm going to try to do this little review of this film without some bias. Good luck with that. We get to the film, it opens up with a bit of history about how the Asgardians stepped in to save Midgard, the Earth, from an invasion from the Frost Giants, and how they pushed them back to their own world, and Odin took from them a casket, that source of power which allowed them to set out on the course of conquest. He's telling this story to his two sons, Thor and Loki, two very excitable kids, eager to learn from their father, and eager for the future, where Thor expresses a love for combat, where he would love to set about the Frost Giants, teaching them to fear him. Oh, that's later on, whatever. The film starts with being introduced to Jane. Hello, Wiki. To Jane Foster, who in this incarnation is an astrologist, with her assistant Darcy Lewis and her mentor Eric, because I can't pronounce that surname. And during the investigation, they happen to run over Thor, because they were chasing after these mysterious lights. How did Thor happen to be the way of their truck? Well, this comes with Thor made a very bad mistake, and he didn't realise it. He still didn't realise it until his embarrassment, because he was being coronated at the time. He was having his big day. He was loving it. He was loading it up, preparing for the ascension to the throne of Asgard. But that is interrupted when a trio of Frost Giants break in to retrieve that casket, and there we get the introduction to the Destroyer. Guards their casket. Thor is furious. He wants to go to the world of the Frost Giants to go teach them a lesson, to tell them, to teach them to fear him, so that nothing like that could happen again. Ultimately, his aim is to protect his lands, protect his people, but still, he still doesn't see the big picture that Odin is trying to get into him. Odin basically explaining that those responsible are already dead, and to go any further would just cause more problems. But no, that's not simple enough. Because Loki, Thor's brother, comes to Thor and he starts talking to him. Basically agreeing with his brother that the Frost Giants must be taught a lesson, but they could not do it their father's consent. This causes Thor to react not in the best sort of ways, where together with their friends, Sif, who in Norse mythology is actually his wife, but not this time, she's a warrior woman. Then we have the Warriors 3, who I am not going to even try and pronounce their names. And this is where things go bad. They go to the world of the Frost Giants and they approach their king. He does not take kindly to their presence. And he's warned them basically just to go away, not let things progress any further, that not set a tide that cannot be stopped. With Loki stepping in, basically saying they agree to the terms to leave, they start to go into a Frost Giant Betty remarks, "Run along, little princess," and Thor goes off the handle, showing how reckless he is. He is a boneheaded thug when you come down to it. He may have the best of intentions, but still he's just too reckless. And they are almost killed after a glorious battle, seeing the deaths of many Frost Giants and even a big beastie unleashed by the Frost King. And Odin has to step in to save them He tries to redeem the alliance that was held that kept the peace, but it doesn't work. And so, for Thor's arrogance, after they're safe, Odin strips him of his power and exiles him to Earth. And along the way, he discards Thor's hammer to Earth as well, putting onto it an enchantment that would only allow those worthy to wield it to actually pick it up. So Thor lands in New Mexico, where Jane Foster runs him over. Of course, he's, technically mortal now. He's still big. He's got some meat on his bones. He isn't going to take him down easily. And he's going on ranting, blah, 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 demanding to be let back in. And Darcy puts him down with a taser, who she later on remarks, "Oh, sorry about tasing you." After seeing just basically how buff he is. The locals find the hammer. And this is where we get a scene from the end of Iron Man 2, where S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Carson dries up and he sees this commotion. All these people gathered around her trying to pick up Thor's hammer and can't. And this is where S.H.I.E.L.D. moves in to secure the place, study the hammer. They don't know what it is. It could be a threat. It could be a potential source of power. They don't know. They don't want it falling into the wrong hands, so they seek to control it. This is going on while Thor is taken to the hospital. Actually, this is after. Actually, he's taken to the hospital, left there, and then he promptly breaks loose. As I said, he's still beefy. The hospital security can't deal with him. He breaks out. And then Jane promptly runs over him again. So they take him back to their workplace, give him some new clothes, and because of his rumblings for food, they go to a local cafe, restaurant, whatever, and basically shows how customs very different, declaring, "This is a good drink, I want some more," and then probably smashes the cup on the floor, causing a bit of a stir, and Jane's basically telling him, "You don't do that." And along the way, they learn the news that the locals have discovered the hammer, and Thor wants to go there. He wants to reclaim what is his. Jane's mentor basically tells her, don't get involved with this guy. He's crazy. He's dangerous. And she listens to him. She says she can't help him when he wants to go find his hammer. They go their separate ways. And this is where they discover Carson has been busy. He has taken all their research, all their equipment, probably takes the gear straight out of their hands. Carson is basically playing the bureaucrats. He is not answering anything. He is doing basically, he's securing the area, sealing off the information, basically all for the good of the country. This is Carson probably at his most effective, as opposed to the Iron Man films. He is heading up things he basically controls S.H.I.E.L.D. operates, that particular S.H.I.E.L.D. operation. Things are not going well in Asgard, because Loki has discovered his heritage. He is not actually an Asgardian, he is actually a frost giant. Taken as an infant from a frost giant temple, because Odin could not leave him alone to die, and someday he had hopes that possibly one day, through Loki, they could unite the two kingdoms. But Loki isn't hearing any of this. He is hearing only the worst of it. He feels he has been lied to and betrayed. That he has not been the son that he has been told he is. And the stress of the situation causes Odin to collapse and into the Odin sleep, which gets a little explanation there. You have to really watch it to understand it, and even then, I don't. There's not really a lot to it. There's just a brief summary. Jane agrees to help Thor recover his hammer. In return, he says he'll help them recover everything they have lost, everything that S.H.I.E.L.D. has taken from them. And here it is, in an attempt to reclaim the hammer, we get an introduction to another future Avenger. We get introduced to Hawkeye, who, unlike the Black Widow in Iron Man 2, he gets 5 minutes. All he does is picks up a bow, has it trained on Thor for about a good 5 minutes, and he's just talking, waiting for Carson's order to put him down, while Thor is beating the tar out of every agent that gets in his way. But no, Hawkeye's there, in truth, is a bit of a wasted effort. As with Iron Man 2, with Black Widow, they could have done with more to focus on them in particular, rather than just stick them in for just a bit part or how it interferes with Iron Man 2, decreasing the quality of the film as such in terms of storytelling. Thor is captured when he's unable to retake his hammer. He is still not worthy. He is still cocky and arrogant. But that begins to change. Loki has assumed the throne of Asgard, and the three warriors and Sif are plotting. They want Thor to come back. And now that Loki has taken the throne, they don't trust him anymore. They know he's a prankster. He's a prankster, and for all Thor has done for them, Loki has turned his back on him, left him to his embarrassment. And so the plots to go to Earth to get him back. But Loki is not without his own plans. He has assumed the king of the throne of Asgard. He goes to Thor, explaining that Odin is dead, that the grief of exiling his son has killed him, and his exile is the key to keeping a fragile alliance between the Asgardians and the Frost Giants. And then he says his goodbyes. Jane's mentor is the one to recover Thor from the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D., basically going in claiming he's another professor that's been doing steroids and is just genuinely angry that how dare they move in and just take their research, take their equipment. However, Carson knows the truth, or at least the degree that Thor is not this professor. They don't know who he is. They've been trying to get answers out of him, and Thor is a pit of despair. He's pretty much lost everything. He pretty much in a pit of despair the moment realised he could not take up the hammer anymore. And Loki preys on that, seeks to shut him down for good. Well, he sets up his own plan. He goes talking to the Frost Giant. He admits to them that, I let your warriors in. And he makes with them a deal. He will shield them and allow him and his warriors to get to Odin and kill him. And of course, Loki takes the kingdom of Asgard for himself. The Frost Giants have to do it for him because Asgardians, as he puts, will not take kindly to their king having killed the last one. The rest progresses as this. The Warriors 3 and Sif go to Earth with the aid of the all-seeing gatekeeper, who is smart enough to realise things are not as they should be, and allows them to do as they wish. Of course, not with express permission, but he still lets them go. And knowing this, Loki sends the Destroyer after them to kill Thor, to not let him back. A battle ensues. After the Warriors 3 and Sif are reunited with Thor, they tell him the truth, and the Destroyer is just basically destroying town, causing all manner of havoc. The Warriors 3 and Sif try to slow down the Destroyer, but despite their best efforts, they can't. And let's put it this way. The laddies of the Warriors 3 gets kicked around like nobody's business, and Sif is the one to land the best blow on it, and discovers it does not go down easily. Thor makes a stand. He goes before the Destroyer, speaking out to his brother, basically saying, "Spare everyone. Whatever I've done against you, I am sorry. Take me, spare everyone else." The Destroyer starts to walk away. However, then turns around, smacks Thor in the face, sends him flying. And then just goes off walking, Loki pretty much content that Thor was dead. He's not. We get switched to a scene of Odin. He's shedding a single tear. We get his little speech when he put the enchantment on Thor's hammer, and it reacts. Carson and his people are detecting all sorts of energy readings from it. They're scrambling the machines. And then it flies off, straight into Thor's hand, restoring his armour into not exactly the most fiercest of battles, pieces battle, but ultimately the destroyer is put down. Thor has learned this lesson as such. Yes, he has. Loki has at this point let the Frost Giants into Asgard, frozen the gatekeeper, and eventually the gatekeeper breaks loose, takes down a couple of Frost Giants, and opens the gates. The Rainbow Bridge. Again, this is another film that includes a lot of CGI. Some of it good, some of it just gets to the point where really we couldn't have some model work here, and comes down the face up between Loki and Thor, that ends with Thor to put an end to Loki's schemes to destroy the world of the Frost Giants, destroying the Rainbow Bridge, ending that little scheme. And Loki would not allow it. He moved in to stab Thor in the back, but it's too late. The bridge is broken, he goes tumbling off. Thor won't let him fall, and Odin is back in action. He grabs his son, grabs Thor before he can fall. And this is where we get the motivation for it. Loki has always felt second fiddle. He's never felt on even terms with Thor. He wanted that feeling. He was crying out to his father that he could have did it. He could have destroyed giants. He wanted his acceptance, but he makes the same mistake as Thor did. He sought to destroy where Odin sought a diplomatic answer. And so, with that cause lost, Loki lets go and drops into the abyss between worlds. The gateway between Earth and Asgard has been destroyed. And Thor misses Jane, of course. Jane is busy at work, studying what she's studying, because Thor made the deal with S.H.I.E.L.D. He is an ally, but they had to return all of Jane's gear and research. And they do. Carson lives up to his deal. Lives up to his word, even. What is this story about, eh? I feel this, as a pre-Avenger film, is better than Iron Man 2 for one particular reason. The S.H.I.E.L.D. presence is not detrimental to the story at large. It is a hindrance that helps move things along as such, to put that obstacle in Thor's way. This is pretty much the story covered in Iron Man 1, instead done differently for Thor. Thor is a brass, reckless, and frankly, as Loki puts it, a Brutus prince who needed to learn a lesson. And just like before in Iron Man, he learns his lesson for the reason that the bad guy of the film decided they needed to be out of the picture. Loki teaches Thor a lesson, but at the same time he makes the same mistake. He's cold, he's calculating, he's very sneaky, he's the prince of lies. This, I feel, is a good film. Definitely a good comic book action film, where the characters do get a good amount of growth. Loki is understandable, and I think even before the Avengers film came out, there was a lot of fan love for him. Loki possibly can be seen to be sympathetic, but he has been lied to his entire life. He's a Frost Giant, but he has told otherwise. He wanted his father's approval. He wanted to be on the same level as Thor, but never could. He has always felt the outsider, and his best bid to win his father's approval met only with disapproval. And that leads to the end scene, where Jane's mentor is taken down into some basement complex to meet with Nick Fury, where he's to study the Tesseract. And we see in his reflection Loki, and he repeats what Loki says in, well, that's worth a lot. This is a story of redemption from one's own vices. Thor's arrogance, Thor's recklessness. He learns to be ultimately a better ruler to be through this. And Loki knows his dealings, wanting the kind of acceptance his brother has, pretty much loses everything. Well, that's all for now. On to the next one.